In this video we are going to be having a little look at metals. We're going to look at their properties, we're going to have a look at their uses, we're going to look at how we can make them better as well and improve them. But first off, we're just going to have a very quick look at the advantages and disadvantages of recycling these. So in an earlier video we've looked at how to extract them. This is kind of the advantages and disadvantages of recycling. Now you can see there's loads of advantages listed there. We've got the reserves of those metal ores are going to last longer if we recycle. There's going to be less energy needed to actually recycle. Most of the time it requires a lot less than to extract. It reduces the need to mine. This mining could damage landscape, create noise and pollution and stuff like that, so that is a really good thing. It also produces less pollution. So we're talking about things like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide. Going to reduce the amount of these given off into the atmosphere. And it means that we have less landfill. Which is not really a good thing at all. Again, that's going to be destroying the landscape, having an effect on wildlife and habitats. There are some disadvantages to recycling. This is mainly to do with the cost of collecting, sorting and transport. Also, that's going to use energy, and also it can be more expensive to recycle as compared to extract those metal ores. Now, when these are recycled, you're going to be able to separate them out. Mainly they do it by using magnets. So iron and steel, really easy to separate because they're going to be magnetic. Any other things there are not going to be able to separate, and then you're going to separate those by hand. But now let's move on to having a look at some uses of metals. So some general properties of metals. They're generally going to be shiny when they've been polished. They're going to be able to conduct, and this is by both heat and electricity. I should say electricity. They are malleable, which means we can hammer them into shape basically, so it can be shaped. And they are also ductile. So this is stretching them into wires. Now, different metals are actually going to have different properties. So some specifics of different metals are like aluminium. This has a very low density. It also doesn't corrode because of this layer of aluminium oxide it has. So this makes it really useful for things like aeroplanes. It's light and it's not going to corrode. Two properties you really want when you're going up in the sky. Copper is extremely good at conducting electricity. So this is used a lot in electric cables. It's also got quite a low reactivity, so it's not going to react with water much. So that makes it really good for water pipes. They did used to use lead for water pipes, but you got the problem of lead poisoning there. Gold. This doesn't corrode. So this makes it really useful for things like jewellery. It can also easily be bent into different shapes, and you can change it so much. So jewellery, really good. It's not going to tarnish or anything like that. It's also one of the best electrical conductors out there, so it's used in a lot of electronical devices. Finally, iron and steel. These are used by as mainly the most popular metal out there, because it's quite cheap to extract because you're only going to heat it with carbon. Pure iron is going to be really soft. So you can easily change it around to what you want, but you usually add other things into it to form that steel, and it's going to make it stronger and harder. But we're going to look at how they do that in a second. Now on here I have given us a little diagram of iron. Now this really could be all sorts of different pure metals. But this is the structure you would see of the atoms, and you can see they're arranged really nicely in these different layers. But this means that these layers can easily slide past each other. So if there was some sort of push or anything like that on one of these layers of atoms coming in that direction, all these atoms are going to move. So they're going to slide past each other really easily. So that's going to make it really soft. Now in this second diagram here, what I've actually drawn is steel. And this is different because I have added some extra elements into them. Now different elements are going to be different sizes. So this destroys that layered structure. It's no longer that lovely, nice layered shape. It's just completely changed. And this means those layers can no longer slide past each other. So it's going to make it stronger. And this is an example of an alloy. So an alloy is a metal which has had extra elements added to it. Now this also happens in terms of gold. Pure gold is really soft, so you can't actually use it in jewellery. So they add things like copper and silver to it to make it much harder and much stronger. And the purity of this is measured in carats. So the higher your carat rating, the more gold you are going to have. So 9 carat gold actually has only about a third of it being gold. The rest is going to be these extra elements that have been added to it. Now if we go back to steel just for a second, stainless steel is an alloy of iron which has small amounts of chromium and nickel. And adding these in causes it not to corrode at all. Now there is a final type of alloy which you need to know if you are going to be doing the higher paper, and this is shape memory alloy. Now this is really cool. An example of this is nitinol, and that is an alloy of nickel and titanium. And this is a metal that you can change the shape of, but if you heat it up, it's going to turn back to its original shape. So you put it into its shape, heat it up, and it's going to turn back to what it originally was. So these are used in things like spectacles, flexible spectacle frames, which when crushed or damaged, they will pop back to their original shape because they are made of this shape memory alloy. Now that was a very quick run through of metals and how we can improve the properties of these metals. The best thing for you to do now is to have a go at some practice exam paper questions and to look further into what I have introduced you to in this video. Thanks for watching this video and good luck in your science exams.